Morning, Emma, Dave. Thanks
Morning.
for making the time to attend this morning's review meeting. Really pleased to see that we've all been able to upload our comments to the relevant sections of the Pebble Pad form. So I think that will really help us in this review to have more time for discussion. So if we get cracking with the first part of the form, Dave, this is around where we discuss your actions from the previous meeting 12 weeks ago. So looking at it, it looks like both of the actions referred to the raw materials module that you were studying at the time. And action number 1, we asked you to identify the raw material specifications that are used within pies and bakes and describe the importance of this to us.
Yeah, well, as a pie manufacturing company, we've got a range of specifications. In fact, one for each commodity that we use. So for fruit and veg, we use onions, potatoes, apples, right through to the finished pastry. So you've got butter, you've got flour, you've got eggs, you've got sugar. So all these specs are important to ensure accreditation with the appropriate food safety bodies, but also more importantly to ensure that the product is consistent. We don't have any wastage, and we've got maximum yield, and potentially we can reduce customer complaints through them.
Okay, great. So how does Pies and Bakes manage these when the supply chain might be inconsistent?
Yeah, well, we're quite lucky really in that we've got well-established relationships with suppliers. They've been supplying us for years. And yeah, there could be some tweaks on occasion. So for example, if we use a different apple for our apple pies because of supply issues, we might need to look at the size and yield specifications, but at the moment it'd only be that. But we have developed completely new ones for the ingredients within the new steak pie line.
Okay, sounds like you've got a really good grasp of those, so well done for that. The second action, it was to explore the traceability aspects of one product. And I think we talked about this being a product in the new steak and potato bake line. So do you want to talk us through your response to that action?
Yeah, well, I looked at the meat that we're going to use for the steak bake. Our traceability document, which I've uploaded onto Pebble Pad, so you can have a look at that. That identifies that it's from a Hereford heifer, and the heifer should be 20 to 24 months of age. It also identifies the 3 farm sources as well as the butchers involved in the processing. It looks at the transportation and specific cuts of meat that's required, and then it goes on to cover where the completed products are scheduled to end up. So as well as the methods of storage and transportation, that will help us reduce any risks of contamination.
Okay, well done. So that's a great job following up those actions. Just make sure that you add that evidence to the relevant KSBs in your Pebble Pads.
Yeah, already done. Yeah, could you have a look when you get a minute, please?
Oh yeah, will do. I'll make that an action for me. So if we move on then, so it's great to see then that you are developing that ability to apply the learning that you've done at university to the workplace, and that you're covering off those actions like that. Those discussions were really thorough, well done. And it's really clear that you understand that how that learning is relating to your work, your everyday activities, and also the apprenticeship. So really pleased that you're engaging with your Pebble Pad and uploading that evidence regularly. This is a really positive picture. Take it, keep going, and I'll make that action to review what you've supplied so far.
Yeah, so I have some notes here. Dave's done a really good job so far. We're really, really pleased with his progress. He's worked independently to carry out research into our processes. As a result, he's got a more business-focused understanding, and he understands the processes within the company. I'm really pleased with his initiative, and by contacting the lab independently and arranging to go in there, he's managed to shadow, and it's just been such a great start for him.
Yeah.
Right, let's have a delve into the off-the-job training since our last meeting. So let's have a bit of can you reflect on the raw materials module that you've done?
So this was the one at uni?
Yeah.
Well, as a result of completing that, I've been able to produce that draft specification for the types of meat we're going to use in our new line. I've got a much better appreciation and understanding of why we need them in the business. I also still understand how the 4 different mini specifications within them link. So that's the raw materials, the equipment, the processes, and the internal product specs that we use on each line. I've also been able to trace our supply chain for the apple pie line, so I now understand how that all fits together with the specs and their traceability. I wasn't quite sure about the food fraud thing, so I might need to go over my notes again.
Okay. And what about the food safety module?
Oh, well, that was a really useful module, and I think I've done really well in my assignment, fingers crossed. I feel confident about it. I found the topics of biological, physical and chemical hazards really interesting. But I know it's something that we manage extremely well here at work.
Okay. How do you manage them then?
Well, we've got really strict processes and procedures in place, so along with risk assessments, that helps to minimise the amount of risk that there is. We undergo lab testing of the commodities at all stages of the process, so that's from delivery through preparation and process right through to distribution. That's all part of our due diligence and legal requirements, because we're required to work to the General Food Hygiene Regs 2004 and the Food Hygiene and General Safety Regs 2013.
I remembered. And what about the latest module? I think you've just started this, food product manufacturing. What have you learnt so far?
Well, we've only completed 1 topic so far, and we've got 3 more blocks to do, but we started to discuss the general food manufacturing industry, and I didn't realise that 55% of the food that we consume here in the UK is produced here. But what I found amazing is the amount of produce that we import against that we export is a massive difference. And then we've just started to touch on FMP mapping.
Oh, okay. FMP mapping, can you explain what that is?
Yeah, well, we've only just started it, so I might be a bit sketchy, but it's food product manufacture mapping. And it shows us what we do within the processes and how we can use technology to help or develop them. So for example, there's a process called the Chorleywood process. Now that process helps to reduce the bulk fermentation time for bread when we're producing it in mass. And then there's older ones that, like sterilisation and freeze drying. They've helped to improve shelf lives and longevity of products. So things like your baked beans or maybe your fresh vegetables.
Sounds like you're learning a lot. So how are you applying what you've learned on those modules to the workplace?
Well, we're between blocks 1 and 2, but I've got a project to do. In that project, we've got to compare some of the work that we did in the labs at uni. So we did some practical tests on cream and butter. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to carry out similar tests in the lab on some of the dairy products. So that'll be the butter, maybe the milk and the eggs in our apple pie line, and then I'll be comparing them and reporting back on those.
Okay. Right, this is really detailed discussion. Should we take some time then to look at how this off-the-job training maps into the KSBs, and have a think about what progress you're making against the relevant ones?
Yeah, well, we identified 2, didn't we, last time, and they were new product design and food allergies. They were the 2 I was going to focus on. Well, I reckon with what I've done, I've gone from a 1 to at least a 2. I mean, I'm definitely a 2. Okay. Yeah.
So, what's your rationale then for that movement?
Well, I think the work I've done on the new line spec, I'm actually putting that into practice. So, I've learned about tailoring the specs to each stage. The food safety unit, that's generic because there are lots of different facets to that. The work I've been doing on the specs has taken me into the more common allergies areas, and we looked at the plant and potential processors to make sure that it's safe from a cross-contamination point of view.
So fantastic. I can see that you're clearly relating the stuff that you're doing with your tutors at university to the on-the-job application. And when we next meet in 10, 12 weeks' time, it'll be really great to hear how your project's going. So just a quick query then. Are you actually enjoying your time at university?
Yeah, it's nice to meet other apprentices. But I must say, I mean, the workload combined with being at work, it's quite intense. There's lots of things coming at the same time.
Yeah, it's difficult for apprentices balancing working full time with also studying, a degree course. But you've got to make sure that you find some time to take care of yourself, both physically and mentally. We don't want you burning out, David. So, what are some of the challenges that you think you're facing specifically?
It's just time to study, really. You know, full-time students, they only do a few hours a week in uni, and then the rest of the time, to do their assignments. With us, we've got to try and fit that around a full-time job and family commitments. It can be quite stressful, especially when we all have a number of assignments needing to be in at the same time.
Okay, thanks. I'll feed that back to your course leader, and remember the other feedback mechanisms that you can use at university. So that's your course committees. So maybe feed that through to your course rep.
Yeah, we've got some reps.
And module My Say surveys, I think they enable you to add some comments towards the end. So if course leaders see that there's consistent themes coming through, it might trigger them to relook at the design of the programme, and they can do some reflection on whether the teaching blocks are working and they've got adequate
so that
space.
might mean that we don't get 2 assignments at the same time or something, do you?
Yeah,
oh, right,
because
okay.
that would be helpful. And also don't forget that there's a number of time management resources online. They might help you identify your time bandits. And then there's also other support mechanisms like NTSU have got a whole raft of wellbeing people and activities and sessions that you can delve into. So Emma, is there anything that you think you can help David with on this matter?
Yeah, we can certainly have a look at giving you the extra study time within work. I'm pretty sure that would help. I have to have a word with our manager to see how that would work, but I can certainly take it away as an action. But Dave, I do want to just say, as reassurance really, it's really good to see how Dave is not only learning the topics from the university, but as a result he's able to sort of apply them in his day-to-day role. I know Dave's not mentioned this, but not only did he produce the draft meat specification for the new line, but then he went on to the suppliers to discuss it in detail. It was just super impressive, and he presented himself brilliantly. He was able to discuss the intricacies of the specification with the client, and the meeting covered plenty of skills and behaviours which I think Dave probably needs to record and write up as evidence for his portfolio. His use of technical language, his use of grammar, they're really improved, and it's just such great progress and great news that, I just want to put that in there as a bit of reassurance, because I understand the intensity, but please, leave here today knowing that this has all been recognised.
No, thanks.
That's some great feedback, Dave.
Yeah.
So I think we've captured all the stuff to do with the off-the-job training. Let's delve into now the on-the-job training in your progress since our last review. So have you identified any specific KSBs or any additional activity that you've been doing that might support some evidence towards competency?
Is that here at work?
Yeah.
Well, I've completed intermediate food hygiene. Yeah.
Great. So how's that course helped you in your role?
Oh, well, it's given me a more in-depth insight into things like contamination and the types of organisms that may be the riskiest here at work. And it also means that I can train any new starters in their basic food hygiene, because everybody has to do that when they first start. So I've done that, and then I've spent a week shadowing one of the apple pie assembly line colleagues. Yeah, that was interesting.
Okay. So what did you learn from that shadowing experience?
Well, we had a breakdown. Oh, yeah, it was an incident with a potential foreign body contamination risk. So as a result, I not only shadowed them on the line, but the lab team and the engineers as they tried to locate the source of contamination and fix it. Yeah, it was really, yeah, it was lucky that it happened, well, at the time, I guess.
Yeah, some great evidence there. So that experience, how does that relate to the knowledge, skills and behaviours?
Well, when I looked back, I mean, there's certainly a couple of knowledge ones that stand out. So, you know, certainly physical hazards and their controls in food. There's a knowledge statement about that. So, you know, we found the hazard and we looked at the controls. There's another one which was analysing complex information. So what we did was we looked back at our contamination data to see if there was a bit of a trend sort of looking and seeing if it was built up a picture. So we did that. Obviously there were skills, so I worked in a team. Three teams. I felt I made a good contribution within each one. Even though it was an issue for the plant because we lost 12 hours production. I benefited from the issue and it helped me to contextualise what other departments do and how it all sort of fits together quite seamlessly. And then behaviours, I think I'll probably need Emma to confirm this, but as far as problem solving goes, but I think I covered that, you know, the one about working to identify and ensure the root causes of problems.
Okay, that's brilliant. So loads of KSBs covered there. It sounds like you couldn't have planned that shadowing experience any better. We just now need to make sure that you write all that up and upload it to PebblePad because that's going to be fantastic evidence for your portfolio. So well done for taking that initiative and sort of arranging it with Emma. So I just want to go back to something Emma mentioned when she was giving you your endorsement. So she mentioned before that she'd seen a real positive development in your English. Have you done anything recently at work that you think's really stretched your maths skills?
Maths? Well, I can see that coming in the chemistry unit. Yeah. You know, that will. But in the food manufacturing module, we did some work on charts, and we had to create some charts and do some comparisons. So that refreshed my knowledge, particularly of axis labels and trend lines. Mm-hmm. I'd forgotten about those. I mean, it's been a long time since I was at school.
And have you got anything you want to add into this section?
Yeah, I mean, it's turned out to be a very timely opportunity for Dave, especially on the line when we had the issue. I'm really pleased with the initiative that he took. He got involved in the project. Like he said, he did cover digging into the root causes and he worked well with the various teams. We've had feedback from the teams and it's been absolutely excellent, so really pleased with that. And to be fair, you just seem to be taking everything so seriously and professionally, Dave. You know, it's really great. Great.
Oh, thanks.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah.
Oh, that's really good.
Oh, I'm going red.
So, brilliant. And that leads us quite nicely into the next section of the meeting where we explore your well-being. So, other than the items that we've alluded to already, how are you coping with your work and the off-the-job balance?
Well, I mean, like I said, it's been a little bit of a struggle. You know, we've had staff shortages, and that meant that Emma and I couldn't make our regular Friday meetings. So as a result, I guess I'm a little bit behind updating my off-the-job hours on PebblePad.
Yeah, I sort of noticed that when I was preparing for the meeting. So staff shortages do make it really difficult to get everything in because you get pulled into covering and stuff. But it's really important that we stay on track of logging those off-the-job hours from a compliance point of view. So glad you brought it up. Maybe we can explore briefly while we've got everyone together how we can further support you and if there's a way that we can sort of get those regular Fridays back into the diary.
Yeah, I don't think it'll be difficult. I just need to talk to the production team about the schedule so that I can be freed up more on a Friday afternoon.
Yeah, I guess I can look at my rotas as well and I can query them with my manager if I see that they're impeding on that Friday, that time that we need.
Oh, that's That's great. So it looks like you've got really supportive employers, Dave, so that's a real positive. Thanks.
Yeah, they're great, yeah.
Is there anything that you've done since we last met that you're particularly proud of, or anything that you've done that's been a real success?
Well, yeah, I mean, the completion of my intermediate food hygiene certificate, and the fact that, you know, I'm going to meet with HR to see if I can get onto the delivery schedule of that, so, you know, I can be involved in the planning and delivery of the basic food hygiene certificate that all our new members of staff have to go through, and they have to do ongoing mandatory training as well each year, so I can get involved in all of that. Be great.
That's excellent. That's going to be a real asset to your skill set and your CV. So do you have any personal or well-being concerns that might be impacting your ability to perform both at work or at university?
No, although as I said, it's a bit crazy at the minute. I think I'm keeping up with my workload, but you know, we do need to get those Friday afternoons back, don't we, Emma? To you know, to have those discussions on a regular basis. Yeah,
sounds like they're the real key point to maintaining.
Yeah, I do find them extremely useful and valuable.
Okay, so it's just a nice little gentle reminder. I know you Pies and Bakes are really supportive of apprentices, but just remember that as part of the employer agreement that the company signs, that, you know, you're required to give them that regular time so that they can evidence their competencies and their work.
Yeah, so let me take this back to Dave's manager,
Yeah.
and I'll make amends to the rotas with them to ensure that Friday afternoons are protected. We've recently set up a learning zone as well, so if I introduce you to the learning zone, it kind of enables all our apprentices to go and have some quiet study time, so I can take Dave there as well.
Yeah, oh, that'd be good. Yeah, didn't know you got that.
So you spoke to us earlier about working with different teams, you know, when you went to do your shadowing experience. So how have you seen tolerance of others demonstrated when working with those new teams?
It's like an interview question. It's a good question, that. We're quite a multiracial workforce, and we often get seasonal workers in as well. So as a result of that, you know, there's plenty of ongoing equality training, and as you can see as you walked in, you know, there's loads of posters around the premises on our company values. One of the main ones being, you know, respect for others and harmonious working. But to be honest, I think, you know, the teams I've worked with, they welcome me in really well, and I would say they treated me with the respect that the company demands. Yeah, so I've not seen any issues. No.
Brilliant. Yeah. So if you're ever feeling overwhelmed at work, are you aware of any work assistance programs or wellbeing support, and who within the organisation would you contact for that support?
Yeah, they went through an induction. I think we need to talk to the wellbeing lead in HR. That's it, isn't it, Emma?
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, that's just a phone call.
Okay, right. So I've been making some notes while you've been discussing these. So I'll upload those comments into PebblePad, and we can spend some time perhaps at the next progress review meeting just seeing if that's still working. You know, the Fridays and so on and so forth. So thinking about the future, Emma, are there any projects or opportunities on the horizon that David might be able to get involved in?
Yeah, so having a look, we've obviously there's nothing planned other than continuing to work on the new line project. But saying that, you do have the uni project to complete, which will allow you to compare our product value to those you did at uni in your last module. We can see what comes back from HR about the food hygiene training, and if that's a goer, then, you know, that could save a considerable amount of money for the business as well, because it stops us having to subcontract, which is, you know, a bit of a bonus for us as well. And then Dave gets that lead out there. There was something in the discussion earlier about doing some lab work as well. So I'll have a word with that team and see if we can get Dave in there to do some research, which will align with sort of the 2 months secondment type.
Yeah.
Fabulous. So your next modules, Dave, coming up when you come back to your study blocks are food chemistry and microbiology of food processing. So you might want to think perhaps in your next review, you know, your line manager mentor meetings that you have on Fridays, of opportunities that might specifically relate to those two modules and the content, and how some on-the-job training can support?
Yeah, so definitely the 2 months comment to the labs, that will really support those two modules. And then when we meet next time, we can just work on a bit more of a scheduled detail on schedule.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that'd be really useful for me. I think, to be honest, I think the workload will be a bit easier once I'm in there, because even though there's more attention to detail in the lab and it's very intricate, I think the time frames that they work to are a bit more relaxed than on the lines.
Yep. Okay, right. So we're at the sort of the compliance section now. So just while I've got you both, have there been any changes within your personal circumstances since you started?
No, still the same.
If things were to change, do you know who to contact?
Well, yeah, I mean, there's you. Yeah, I'd contact you. And I think there's a generic NTU apprentice email address. I've got it written down in my induction notes, so I know where to find it if I need it.
Okay. And what about work circumstances? So anything changed within your contracts or people?
Yeah, well, actually, my line manager left 2 weeks ago.
Okay, probably need to take a note of that. Emma, do you have the details of that replacement?
Yeah, so they've just started. So Dave, if I get the details for you, and then you can email them to whoever you need to at the uni.
Yeah,
Great,
no problem, will do.
Yeah.
Okay. So moving on to the actions. So if we think about next time, David, what activities might help you consolidate your knowledge and move it on?
I think I probably want to do something more on the supply chain and contamination. I do need to look back on the raw material notes to refresh my memory on that, and then obviously there's a lab work that we're going to be looking at going forward. So
Okay.
yeah, those things.
Fab. So before we end the review, I just want to go through my checklist of actions that have come out from this meeting. So we've got, well, the first few are for Dave. So Dave, the first one was, we thought, I've written down it'd be useful for you to provide a summary of the supply chain for the new steak and potato bake line. Perhaps look at linking that to cross-contamination or identifying the risks at each stage. So do you think that's something you'll be able to upload to PebblePad, say, by the end of the next calendar month?
Yeah, I think I probably already started that with the issue that we had. It's sort of easily transferable, so yeah, should be able to do that by.
Okay, and perhaps what might be nice is at the next review meeting you do that as a bit of a presentation for me and Emma.
Really?
To sort of develop some...
Yeah.
No? Okay.
Yeah, all right then. Yeah.
Just thinking of different ways of evidencing your competency. Another one for you, Dave, is about revisiting raw materials presentation and a brief summary of the potential areas of risk. So what would be a good realistic timeline for that one?
Well, the end of next month maybe.
Okay.
Yeah. I think once I get my Friday afternoons back, I'll be able to find a bit more time. So yeah, let's say that then. The end of next month, I can probably get it done for them.
And then the last big one is I've written down about doing a comparison of the milk used in your apple pie line and comparing it to that you've researched in the lab. So I think this is about more of the bigger project that you were doing as part of your university studies. So maybe as an interim at the next review, you could report back on any variances that you've got in those results.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that might help you with your summative assessment in that module.
Yeah, well, I think if I get into the lab in the next few weeks, it'll be something we probably do fairly quickly. So yeah, I don't know, 5 or 6 weeks should be plenty of time to do that.
Yeah, fab. And the last one, I think this is for you, is about is a regular updating of your PebblePad, your e-portfolio, and your off-the-job hours. Yeah,
again, if we can get those Fridays back, then that's when I plan to do it. But it just falls by the wayside, doesn't it?
Yeah, for sure. So there's another one, probably a bit more for Emma and your manager, to discuss the value to all parties of that needing to carry out that regular reflection on a Friday. So we'll review that when we next meet in this progress review.
Yeah, so I'll take that away as an action, and what I can do is I will look at the increasing of the study time, and I can probably do that by the end of next week. I'll also look into a more detailed schedule for the lab work, and I'll probably have that done by the end of the month by the time communications and that have gone through.
And I think my action, unless there's more that you guys can remember, is to review the KSBs that you've and the evidence that you've already uploaded. So I'll do that by the end of this week, and I'll also update the action plan and then share it with you both, so that you can add your signatures to the relevant sections.
Yeah, that'd be useful. Okay.
So, is there anything else that we feel we need to discuss while we're all together?
Not that I can think of.
No.
We've covered everything.
Right, so excellent progress, Dave. Thank you to Emma for supporting your development, and see you next time.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah.
See you next
Thanks,
time.
Suze.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thanks, Emma.
No worries.
All
Thanks, Dave.
Yeah, see you next time.